Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. So over the last year or so, I've gotten comments within my videos that would always ask me, what's the minimum size that you can set up for a dirted tank? So today, that's the subject I want to explore. So not only will I set up a nano dirted tank, but I'll kind of explain some of the things that may go along with it. So stick around. So is there a minimum size for a dirted tank? That is a common question I would get throughout my videos within the last year or so. So to answer that question, no. There is no minimum size. You could create a dirted tank within any size aquarium or container for that matter. Heck, you could use a small mason jar like this. Put a little bit of dirt, sand, and some plants in there, and you'd be rocking with a cool little dirty jar. Now, obviously, the occupants you put in here will be a little different compared to what you'd be able to put in like a larger aquarium. But that being said, so what are we going to do today? Today, I got this 2.4 gallon little aquarium. I'm going to set this up as a nano dirted aquarium. I want to go over a few things. I want to talk about the substrate in particular. There's a few things that can be a little different with the substrate compared to a normal size aquarium. So we'll touch on that and we'll set this thing up together and I'll show you what it's all about. This aquarium houses a built-in filter and light within the hood of the aquarium, which is pretty cool, but I don't use filtration within my aquariums down here in my fish room. Now, it's not because I'm against filters. I really have no problem with filters. Filters have a purpose. I just don't like using them mainly because I would have to use sponge filters more than anything down here, and it takes up space within my aquariums where I can put more plants. Plus, I just don't like the bubbly noise. I like the quietness within my fish room. So that being said, you don't really need filters within a nano aquarium either, but I want to try it out. I'm going to see how this one works. As you can see, the only thing that sticks into the aquarium from this filter is just the intake tube. So worst comes to worst, I don't like it, I can just turn it off and pull the tube out. So that being said, it's time to get a little bit of dirt in here. Now when it comes to the substrate of one of these dirted nano aquariums or dirted containers or whatever you're setting up, that's where it can be a little different than a normal sized aquarium, maybe like 10 gallons and up. So the general rule of thumb always is 1 inch of dirt to 2 inches of cap, which sand is what I use and a lot of people do, but whatever you choose. So the reason for that being is because that dirt level, however deep you set it, so if you set it at 1 inch deep, it will rise another inch above that into your cap. So if you have 2 inches of cap, that dirt won't reach the surface and you still have at least 1 inch of cap covering that dirt. So with that, you want to look at that same ratio when it comes to one of these dirted aquariums. You don't need a full inch of dirt. You don't need a substrate that goes like this high because that's only going to leave you a limited amount of room for plants and water and everything else. So you don't need a full inch of dirt when it comes to these smaller aquariums. So what I've got is I have a cup here that I already have pre-mixed with my soil, compost, and osmocote that I use in all my aquariums. If you want a closer look at how I put one of these together, I will put a link at the top here when I set up one of my dirted tanks, but it's basically 2 parts organic potting soil to 1 part organic compost, and then I add some time-release fertilizer in there just to kind of help it out. So that's what I got in here all mixed up. So like I said, you don't need a full inch of dirt. Really, all you need is almost like a little bit more of a dusting in here just to cover the bottom. So if you think of it, think of this aquarium as if it was like a 100-gallon aquarium. You know, you wouldn't have your substrate up to here. That would probably be like almost a foot of substrate. You only need it like down to there. So you don't need a lot. Just remember that ratios of having the double amount of cap that you would have over your soil. Just kind of breaking up some of these bigger chunks. So that right there is probably enough already. Might even be more than I need, but we'll work with that. And while we're doing it, I showed you that jar before. Why don't we set this one up too, just for the fun of it, and show you that it is possible to set one of these up and we can monitor it over time. This too, you don't need a lot of dirt. Well, let's put a little bit in there. just to cover the bottom. Plenty. Now what I do is I just put a little bit of water in there because I want to wet this dirt a little bit so I can pack it down. You don't need a lot. You don't want to have a whole puddle in there. You just want to get a little bit in there. Same with this one. Now, that's where you get dirty. Got to stick your hands in there a little bit and just kind of mix it up. If you need a little bit more water to moisten it, which I think I do, we put a little bit more in. And the purpose for this is, for me, I like to make it so it's a mud pie, and I can pack it down, try to get as much of the air out of it as I can. You will have bubbling from the surface of your aquariums for quite a while after, no matter how you do it, in my opinion. But I believe this kind of helps get some of those air pockets out of there a little bit and can just help you in the long run. So after I got this all packed down, we'll do the little jar quick, which might be a little harder to stick my fat hand in there. So we're just going to put sand on top of that one. So that's the dirt layer. So the next thing, like I said, is the cap, and that's where we're going to put some sand on there. So next up is the cap. Now, what cap you prefer to use is completely up to you. I highly recommend sand. I feel it's the best cap that you can use on here, but that's my opinion. Do your own research for what you feel is best. But again, now, like you said, what type of sand do you use? Any inert sand is fine. I use sand from a local beach. You can use play sand. You can use pool filter sand. You can buy the aqua sands from the fish stores and pay more money if you want. But I prefer sand from my local beach because, well, it's free. Anyway, so now with the sand, like I said, you want to have the double amount of sand that you have your dirt. For the reason being, like I mentioned before, your soil layer will and can rise about double the depth that it is. So you want to have double that so it doesn't reach the surface of your aquarium. So I put a little bit of sand in the jar right now to maybe try to help myself a little easier. I don't know if that's really going to work. So I'll put that in there. Try to level it out some. I'm going to need a little bit more. The other thing I have to be concerned with is if I do plan on using this filter, is I got to make sure that intake tube is not too far down, that the substrate isn't high enough. If not, I won't be using it. So let's see, that might be enough here. You want to make sure you got it all the way around the sides, and you want to make it level and pack down. Looks good to me. Now, you can do with, if you want to be more of the aquascaper type and make things a lot neater, you can keep the dirt away from the sides of the glass, and you make a little trench, and you put the sand in there so you don't see the dirt. That doesn't bother me though. And we'll get a little bit of sand in that jar quick without making a mess, hopefully. Yeah, making a mess. All right. Well, next thing's next. I got to pack this down, but I got to find something to get down in there. But let's put this tank where I'm going to set it up now, because once I get the water in there, I could probably lift it, but I prefer just to set it where I'm going to set it, and we'll go from there. All right, so this is where I plan on putting it, on my main rack between my two 29-gallon aquariums. I realize it's kind of the power stripping back is kind of an eyesore, but I do plan on, once I get a lot of plants in the back, I might put a little black background on it as well. But the jar I filled up already, because this is just easier. Got it packed down, and I got water in it. So what's next? Well, next is we need to find some hardscape for it. And for that, I like to use the phrase rob Peter to pay Paul. What I do is I will grab stuff out of my existing aquariums to fill it up. Now, what I think I'm going to do is, up here is typically where I put my Nano little small aquariums that I have. Now, this is a dirted gallon jar. This one I've had set up for probably, I don't know, a good 5 months now. these decorations, if you don't remember, if you're familiar with my channel, they used to be my 10-gallon. They were my daughter's. And I set this up for her and put 2 little guppies in here just to keep it going. And there's a couple coolioches that I inherited from somebody that are in here for right now as well. And a bunch of dorsage, which is growing in very nice under this light. Now, this is a fish bowl that is doing really bad right now. I set this up probably a year and a half ago. I've never done a water change on it. The problem is it hasn't been under this light very long. And what happened was this was thick of guppy grass and Ludwigia, and it all died off. And this dorsage, also, Salvinia minima up here blocked out the light so much. But there are loads of snails and loads of shrimp in here yet. If I go like this, you can see them usually all fall from the floating plants. So there's plenty of life in there yet, and I'm going to rescape this tank here very soon. So keep an eye out for that video. But what I'm going to do, I think, is take some of these sticks and I'm going to use it in that aquarium with maybe a few rocks. So we'll do that, and then I'll get back to you. All right, so this is just an easy little escape. I may move it around after I get some plants in there. I just put a couple rocks and a couple sticks, almost TPing it over it. Then I want to put some plants all in the back and maybe up here. And I would like to maybe put a crypt in there. So let's look around for plants now. So currently I have a few plants in here that I pulled from another aquarium the other day. There's some dorsage and Ludwigia. There are some small little crypts in this tank here, which I wouldn't mind putting one small crypt in there. So that's like my main focal point. I want to try to put one crypt sort of like in the middle here somewhere, and then Ludwigia and dorsage in the back. So let me pull some of those out and we'll see what we can do. All right, so I set it up, filled it up with water. I just did it right away. Obviously, I found out, as I know, that it's easier to put the plants in the substrate when there's some water in there. So I filled it up right away. Just be careful when you fill up these tanks, which if you're ready to have a dirty tank, you should know that you don't want to get a pocket down and through your cap into your dirt so the dirt comes up into your water column. So what I did was, like I said, I put that little crypt in here. I don't know which one that is, if it's Wendenti Red, but I'm hoping this will grow big and become the centerpiece of this aquarium, have one big bush in the middle. I have my other plants in here, which are nothing special. It's what I have in a lot of my tanks. Dorsage along the back wall, which I'm hoping will grow in, and then the Ludwigia, which again, I want to grow tall, be able to clip it, and be able to add and propagate to this aquarium for more. Now, the one thing you want to do keep in mind when you're setting up not only this nano aquarium, but any sized aquarium when it comes to a dirted aquarium, make sure you have lots of stem plants, fast growing stem plants within the aquarium so that it can pull those excess nutrients, which are going to be in your water column in those beginning stages. Now, I'm a little on the slim side. I'd like to put more, but I wanted to see how this filter works and how it moves stuff around first, because I may add a little bit more, and I don't want to put it back there by the intake tube. So it doesn't seem to be pushing a lot of water down in, and it comes out over here on this side. So I'm thinking I might be okay to add some more back into here, but I'm going to let it a day or two and kind of see how it transpires. But before we end this video, let's take a look at that jar. Well, the jar, like I said, nothing special. I just put a couple stalks of Ludwigia in here, and I'll set it up here with my other little nano dirted little containers. Keep an eye out for a video on this one. I know it looks putrid, it is, but I have blue dream shrimp and cherry shrimp in there. I'm kind of curious to see what they look like because I haven't been able to see them for how long. I don't know if it's a myth that you can maybe get a purple shrimp. I don't know. Kind of interested to see one way or the other. So that'll be coming up soon, so keep an eye out for that. But to answer the question, can you have a dirted tank in any size aquarium, any size container? The answer is absolutely yes, you can. You can put it within anything you want, whatever your heart desires. Get out there, find a small container, put it on a shelf, put it on a window sill, enjoy yourself, enjoy nature. Well, you know what? I almost forgot to tell you guys what I planned on putting in here, and that's shrimp. Now, I put some shrimp from all my aquariums in here. I've got some red Rilly shrimp. I have some cherry shrimp and some blue dream in here. I've got about 3 or 4 of each. Now, this is about 12 hours later since I set it up, and there's already a molt there of one of the shrimp, so they must be doing pretty good. This should be a cool little habitat for these guys in this little nano dirted aquarium. And I really look forward to seeing how this goes over time, how much it fills in, and how many shrimp start reproducing in here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you maybe learned something. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And I am offering memberships to my channel. So if you want, hit that join button, become part of the family. Then always remember to think outside the box and take a step back in the nature. I hope to see you guys next time here at Patty's Aquatics.